Hi there, in the name of Christ, how you doing? It's your girl Queen K. I hope you're good, I hope you're peachy, I hope you're Stella, and I hope you're in a neat little bunch. It is a new day. What's up? It's the 7th of November. October, November? Seriously, it's literally November. Can't believe it. Anyway, whatever. 7th of November 2023. Like, I hope you're alright on that particular day. So check me out, guys. I'm rocking this wig again. Like it? You don't gotta, cause I do. Yes. Alright guys, let's just get straight into this thing. Let me put some caveats out there. I'm wearing some application makeup, and so if it bounces, don't give me grief. It is only because it's an application, and we're like sticking to our guns. That's our story, and we're sticking to it. My captions are also not always accurate, so just kind of like look out for that. Not only that, they are irreverent. They sometimes use a small G for God. That's not me. I don't have time to edit my captions. Thirdly, I might have a speech lag or not. If I have it, please forgive me. The audio is accurate. And fourthly, my sound detector every so often takes out my words. So don't imagine me as one whose speech is incoherent. It's my silence detector. I don't have another one. I'm broke, I'm poor. That's my life. So like, let's just deal. Okay, we're gonna talk about something. All right, we always talk about something because that's just my life. So I'm busy getting all of these incredibly dark and dingy dreams, and what we're not gonna do is feel dark and dingy when we get the dreams. People are trying to get me to give up in whatever capacity giving up may come, largely to just go and like snuff myself out from the timeline. We're not doing it, or capitulate to some darkling. Anyway, whatever. That's not gonna happen. I'm about to rock up here and communicate to you some of the reasons why I'm not going anywhere, and why under heaven it is that I'm just like gonna survive, because my God is better than yours. Today's is a relatively warm day. Not warm, it's cold. As you can see, I'm rocking this like thingy-mabobby over here. It's like, girl, relax, get some. I'm South Africa. Except while it is summer, it has been raining like no man's business. So it's a little bit nippy out. Nippy as it is. When the weather gets like this, cranky out here in these streets trying to not work out. When the weather gets like this, I'm like, oh, do I really have to do a squat? Oh Lord. I don't want to squat. Do I really have to? Because it's freezing, it's cold, and last time I allowed myself to get blown away by the wind, and then I got like a chest disease. I was coughing. I was like, oh, wow. I don't want to cough, you guys. I don't. And it's been raining like a monstrosity. Yesterday I worked out because, you know, the weather was somewhat okay, even though I was out of it. I was dying inside, outside, sideways, and behind me. There was just death happening. But like, I worked out anyway. I pushed myself because I realized that I'm being pursued by something ominous, deadly, unfortunately persistent over a person that frankly can't be brought low. Because if God be for us, who exactly can be against us? Who? Anyone that tries like naive much? But like, we get naivety in these streets anyway, whether or not it's not worth your while to be naive. I'm feeling this, bro. Are you? If you're not, you don't gotta. Let's talk, okay? When the weather is all up in my grizzard like this, I don't know what to do with these lighting conditions. When the weather is like this, I'm like, oh no. Maybe I should just kind of sit around and do nothing, gather dust. How's that? Yeah, because I mean, come on, man, I'm tired. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm tired. And one of the biggest reasons why I am scared to stop working out is, yes, because it does give me juice, in that I'm enabled by all the endorphins that get put in my body thanks to exercise to overcome depression. So it's really very, more than anything, a strong antidepressant to exercise. But over and above it being an antidepressant, which I desperately need in this sorrowful time in my life, I just ate, okay? Y'all know I break my fast with some stuff. Sometimes I eat here in front of you guys, prepping for exercise if I will do it. Yeah. Let's move on. While it is an antidepressant, and that is the largest reason why I I exercise. It is also to keep myself in a particular bunch. It is to make sure that I don't get fat, that my body stays strong, because at the end of the day, I am a single woman that's never been married, and just in case the rapture does not happen, I'm still kind of hoping that somebody absolutely worthy would make out of me a wife, and I'm not trying to look like a shoddy little rando on my wedding day. Not only that, I am also not trying to attract the absolutely wrong human being. Okay, yeah, so sometimes when you let yourself go, self-confidence tanks, and a shallow world also tanks around you. And so when a shallow world tanks around you, you now all of a sudden gotta go down to its level, stoop right there, like you're playing a game. How low can you go? Ooh, how low can you go? You end up in that mode, and given that you end up in that mode, for some oaky rando, like, what's going on over here exactly that you never would have looked at before? But I mean, you did decide to get obese, so just take whatever comes, Karabo, because like a lot of guys in these streets, whether or not they'd love to call themselves godly, highly favored, and above such things, frankly, still kind of look at stuff like that. It's called wisdom. Alrighty, we are in this world, although not of it. Yeah. So being in this world means we still have to go and occupy it. Yeah. We are also born dead in trespasses and sins, even if we are born again. There was a time when we were nasty. And according to Romans 7, that's what's good. Even after we get born again, there's still facets of nastiness in us to a point where it is very important for us to bridle the deeds of the body. Meaning that even Christian men tend to incline towards randomness sometimes. You cannot expect a guy to be so incredibly mature, for crying out loud, above your irresponsibility with your body, to just love you anyway with all of your spreading, like proper. If you're spreading because of diabetes, okay, fine, you have an illness, we get it. If you're spreading because of some other illness, okay, like proper, things happen. But if you're spreading just because the donuts are cute, I'm sorry, like, make them ugly then. Like, don't put sugar in them. Or put them under your armpit like that, so you are disincentivized from eating them. But don't just dive into them and expect Christian men across the planet, ladies, that's what's good, to just kind of like take it in their stride because they're like more mature or something. They still have to make war with this body of death, and they are also still subjugated to the tyranny of their former flesh. So it is very highly likely that if a Christian guy is going to be all up in your grill trying to pursue you, he likely liked first because what it is that he imagines to be your pretty face. That's just men for you, okay? Let's not be dishonest over here. Let us not do that. So we're gonna have a discussion about that right now. About what in the world under heaven Lana is going on, ne? Got to keep myself in a neat little bunch, and I don't appreciate being treated like something that just needs to take everything in its stride. When I work so hard to keep myself in a bunch, I'm sorry. I'm keeping myself in a bunch that I might be identified, spotted, essentially by somebody chilling on a mountaintop scanning these streets for he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Scanning these streets for a wife. Imagine this. Let's just put out a scenario out there all up in your grill. Like, boo, throw it. Okay. Has it landed yet? Like a bomb? Boo, there it is. A scenario. Let's talk Rebecca. Rebecca was Isaac's wife. And when I went to the Lord's, to the throne of grace to seek the Lord's face for a husband, I asked him particularly for, essentially a monogamist. Obviously, I wanted a guy that's a monogamist, and I sought an example in the Bible that looked very much like what I was looking for. What I'm trying to explain to you guys is that I fashioned my prayers around Bible characters that I looked up to. So I did not want a husband like David. I did not want a husband like Solomon. I did not want a husband like Elkanah. I did not want a husband like Xerxes. I did not want a husband like, Jacob. Yeah, why? Because I wanted a husband that would literally have one wife. So across the scriptures, I like scanned that ecosystem left and right, panned it, and the perfect example I happened upon was Isaac and Rebecca. I don't believe the Bible mentions anywhere where Isaac grabs himself a concubine or two or a second wife or a fifth. It like basically is just Rebecca from the very beginning to the end. So I've always just really admired the story of Isaac and Rebecca. And the story of Isaac and Rebecca is especially forthright in this particular regard too, because I've always had this like notion at the top of my mind that if a guy's a godly dude and he has sat down and knelt down and done all different kinds of doing, you know, hanging out with God, right, and sought his face greatly for a wife, that upon praying for a wife, he would have also, just like me, okay, tabulated, kind of put down, you know, bullet points and stuff before the King of the Universe on some, please Lord bless me with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and J, K, L, I, A, G, H, A, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. When you see that wife for me, please let me know through any means E. Like proper, that's what I did, right? I asked for a pea and a pod, a bird of a feather, and so I want a man that is specific, like proper in what he wants. That's what's good. And in the scriptures, not in the scriptures, sorry, but like in my own particular archives up here, I call that human individual bespoke. Have you guys ever gone to purchase a bespoke piece of furniture? You walk into a furniture store on some knock, Mr. Furniture, and then Mr. Furniture's like, hi there, what's up, what do you want? And then you're like, I like the furniture on the floor, it's all so cute, but like really, if it was up to me, that table would be grey, but right now it's kind of brown. Oh, that couch, oh, how lovely it would be in pink, but it's blue now. Oh, how unfortunate that tabletop is oak when I wanted marble. Would it be possible for you to make me an oak marble top? Give me a brown chair or a grey chair, I forgot the other one, and give me an orange wingback, whatever might be the other stuff that I came up with. And this guy's like, my, I don't know. I've got a fever. Because I wanted to make a sale, but it appears you're unsatisfied with the furniture on the floor. Are you prepared to give me a month and a half to make you a marble top, a grey couch, a purple windbag, and some flowery curtains? Since that's what you want, if you can give me a month, I will go right to work, even close my store down just to make you such furniture items bespoke. Yeah, I will make you these furniture items as they particularly are desired by you. But I mean, they're not on the showroom floor now. So if you're in like a violent rush, I can create a business case or, you know, present it forward to you to, what is the word that I'm looking for? Convince you to buy it. Or you could just be pedantic and iffy about what you want. But you're gonna have to wait. And you're also going to have to pay just a little bit more than what you would pay for a furniture item that I have fashioned and just plonked it on the showroom floor. And expect people to just rock up and buy them. Yeah, expect human individuals to just rock up in this monstrosity and purchase. If you're wise and if you know what in the world makes sense for your particular household, that's what's good. Yeah, you're gonna be like, okay, Mr. Furniture, oh, my house is so empty now. But I mean, you know, like, at the end of the day, I can buy a bed to like chill on, like a little sponge at the corner store over there, and I'll sleep on it while I wait for my bed to be made. I will buy one spoon, and I will buy one fork, and I will buy one butter knife, and I will buy one bread knife, and I will buy one piece of crockery, one plate, one bowl, while I wait for you to hand make my set of crockery and cutlery, given that I do want it engraved with my initials on it. So I guess I'm just gonna have to deal with like these little meager pieces of furniture, sleep on a sponge on the floor, and put a sheet over my windows so that nobody peeps into my household while I wait for my custom-made bespoke curtains. It's gonna be uneasy for that month while I wait for you to sew them from scratch. But once I have them in my house, oh, how ain't nobody out here in these streets walking around with that thing? It's been made particularly for me, and ain't nobody else here gonna be sporting it unless they copying it, in which case it's dubulo. And we don't care about dubulos, because at the end of the day, we all know what's the most authentic one out here in these streets. Yeah, so the individual in question goes on right ahead and waits. You see, when you wait, you acquire that which is bespoke, insofar as you put forward a petition, bullet points if you may, as to what exactly is it that you want. Now, if it is possible for you to get a house bespoke, where it is that it was built from the ground up with your particular architectural desires, whatever you wanted, it could have a tunnel underground because you like tunnels. If that's what you ask for, if you're prepared to wait, and if you're prepared to pay the money for it, if you are that patient guru, that's once again, you get to get what you want. Why under heaven then do you anticipate that the Lord God Almighty cannot, if at all he can make for you a bespoke house, also make you a bespoke human individual, otherwise known as a spouse? It's entirely feasible. The Lord can bless you with a spouse that is bespoke. But you see, as with all bespoke things, like a bespoke wedding gown, you have to wait a little minute, and you gotta pay an extra penny for it. That's what's good. So if you think about bespoke wedding dresses, you can't just walk into a wedding store 1 month, a very busy wedding store, 1 month before your date, your due date. You are walking down the aisle to your husband Oki, and be like, hey, make me a dress from scratch with these kinds of encrustings, and make sure that it's got this level of detail and this kind of lace, and on the side there, make sure it's got this kind of engraving, and if you don't get it right, whatever, I'm gonna go next door. This person will tell you, go next door. Because I've got like a queue of 20 clients that all asked me for bespoke gowns a year in advance. And you're rocking up in my high-end store, expecting me to do one for you in a month. Unless you're Beyonce and you're prepared to give me all of your wealth to make me push out all these other people, you're not gonna get very far. They will tell you to go even though you're pulling an attitude, since you think walking into a store makes you its like queen or its sovereign or whatever. A responsible tailor, a responsible dressmaker will responsibly let you know that you are late. And so I'm gonna have to turn down your business, unfortunately. I'm not that desperate. Well, God is like that tailor that tells you in the scriptures that it is a fruit of the Holy Spirit to be long-suffering. It is a fruit of the Holy Spirit to be patient. And that sometimes you're gonna wait a little minute. You're gonna wait a little minute. And if you rock up with a whole bunch of cocky attitude because you think God needs you, and you're like, you better give me that gown on time, and then whatever comes, you then go on and marry it, you're gonna find yourself married to something that's always been on the store shelf. And it might not be according to what it is that you exactly asked for. Alright? The scriptures say that the Lord provides for us exceedingly and abundantly above what anything at all that we could ever think to ask for. That's what the Bible says. How many of you, show of hands, especially if you're truly a Christian, lukewarm guys, prayers of the wicked or the prayers of the lost are, an abomination to God. So if you don't get what you ask for in prayer, just kind of look at your fornication, look at the fact that you out here watching pornography, look at the fact that you out here rolling around in profanity, look around at the way that you be disrespecting your parents, look around at how you be mistreating your colleagues and beating your students as a bad teacher. Just look at that and realize that the prayers of the wicked are not only an abomination to Emmanuel, but sin does indeed hinder prayer. So if you ended up with substandard lackluster stuff, even though you've been praying, you're that prayer warrior, but a very sinful one, it's likely the reason why you have just random stuff in your life, because you were into Vela Vela, just ignoring God, expecting him to just be this like magician that's gonna wave a magic wand and cling, something appears in your life. However, for those guys that are truly consecrated Christians, like believers in Christ that are serious about the Lord and honoring him and not getting their prayers hindered, the hindrance sometimes becomes that particular Christian themselves, in the sense that they look around on some it's kind of dry and I'm thirsty. Water. And upon feeling like they're in a desert land, exaggerating, rolling around with an epileptic fit on the floor when really it's not that deep, they will then be like, ay, minangzo tati Coca-Cola. There's an advert in South Africa from back in the day, like a furniture advert actually, where they were advertising, what do you call this? A refrigerator. they were advertising refrigerators. I think it was Ellerines or something. And there was this dude rolling around in the desert, and he's like groveling there on some water on the floor. He eventually opens a refrigerator and grabs Coca-Cola and drinks it. Hey Bachung, Coke is a diuretic and it is super sweet. You don't quench your thirst with soda, you quench your thirst with water. But this dude found a Coca-Cola, just like that advert, back in the day, that refrigerator from that furniture company in the country. That's what some Christians are like. They are groveling through the desert because hope deferred makes the heart sick. You are struggling to not wait, but you are struggling to be happy in this season of patient endurance. That's what's good. And then you open a refrigerator, and instead of realizing that you put yourself in harm's way by drinking Coca-Cola when there is water everywhere, not a drop to drink. You don't drink sea water at sea when there is no water around. You're better off staying thirsty. You are better off remaining parched, because you will survive longer from being parched like that than if at all, by a process of osmosis, your body will grab that whole salt water. Whatever water is in your body will transfer over into the cells around that have got, because of the salt content in your body. I personally eat a lot of salt. It's wrong. I know I should stop, right? And that's something I'm actually going to talk about right now. My diet and the fact that things are just working out for me, okay? If I take a lot of salt in my food, and yes, maybe that should stop. I don't know, whatever. Not I don't know. It should, but I do. I like my food really tasty and really salty. However, after having dinner, I drink a good 3 glasses of water before I go to bed. Sometimes subjugating me to the tyranny of using the bathroom, but hardly ever. Why? Because again, you eat salt, and inside your body, osmosis is gonna see it fit to transfer whatever water content is inside your body to the cells around you that are inebriated with all of the sodium, so as to create equilibrium. So if you drink Coca-Cola when you're thirsty, all you are doing is causing yourself grander thirst. If you drink salt water when you're thirsty, all you're doing is dehydrating your body further, because you are putting solubles into it without diluting them with water. And Christians are like that. Sometimes they are defeatist in that they, instead of waiting for actual water to be quenched when they are parched, allowing themselves to be dehydrated for just a little minute longer because it's safe. Oh, come on, this thing needs to stop doing that. Because it is safer that way, they capitulate. They allow themselves to capitulate to drinking Coca-Cola. They go through the wilderness in a desert, and then they see a truck that has got a fridge in it, and they're opening that fridge door. They find Coca-Cola and not a glass of water. And then this Okie goes and grabs Coca-Cola and drinks it, instead of waiting to find another miracle truck in the middle of the desert that's rather gonna have water. How can I, again, best describe this? It's like game shows. You know game shows, how it is that sometimes it's between taking the money or choosing the price, like chelete kapa lebokisi. And if you wait, you could get lebokisi. You could get a car, a new home, instead of just 10,000 rands. So you definitely want the box. But the devil will always make very seemly the immediate gratification, the instant gratification. He will make very comely, very ornate and shine and brassy and shiny. And yeah, whatever it is that is immediately available to you, so that you can pass up on taking whatever it is that you need. Now, if you're at sea or if you're in the wilderness and you are parched, you are better off not drinking any water. Not water, sorry, but you are better off not drinking any liquid if that liquid is not water, because it's only going to intensify your dehydration further. It's only going to make your life a lot worse. That's what's good. So even though you're thirsty now and you think that a Coca-Cola is really going to work out for you, Coca-Cola is going to catalyze your death. It is going to fast track your dehydration until you pass out, until you die. You will first pass out and then you will die. You need to wait for water. So in order to expand your lifespan, to extend your what is the word that I'm looking for? Your propensity, your potential for survival. In order to increase your chances for survival in this wilderness, you have to stay hungry. Do you understand what I'm saying? In order to, not hungry but thirsty, in order to extend your prospective survival. You've got to stay thirsty. If at all what's been given you is anything other than water. And water is, in this particular instance, the bespoke item. Water is just what you need. Water is literally exactly the doctor's order, is exactly what the doctor ordered. And anything else, juice, anything else, Coca-Cola, is frankly going to expedite your death. It's going to fast track it, and it'll be temporary relief. However, water's perfect, like I said. Okay, now a bespoke item at the furniture store is perfect for that particular corner in your house. It is perfect for that particular corner in your bathroom. It is perfect. That bed that is bespoke is the most perfect one for the dimensions in the room that you built from the floor, and it's got all the different angles and architectures that fit that particular room. And so even if somebody were to steal your bespoke item of furniture from your house, it'll never ever mesh hand to glove anywhere else, because you built the house for a bed that you also had built from scratch in order to fit that particular bedroom. So if you want a bespoke wedding gown on the day that your fiance proposes to you, that's when you make a call to the tailor that is the best one in town, the dressmaker that is the best one in town, and put down a deposit and arrange a meeting with him or her to basically get all of your specifications down on paper. And when you order a bespoke wedding gown, the tailor individual is going to take your measurements. Do you understand? He's going to measure your breast, he's going to measure your waist, he's going to measure your hips, he's going to measure everything in order to make sure that it is a perfect fit. So not only do you go early before this tailor to make your dress, so that you will have it like a good month before the wedding, it'll already be ready. Not only do you go early, but since you took the measurements on the 7th of October 2023, and you're going to be getting married on the 7th of October 2024. You have got to keep yourself in shape until 2024. At the same date. You can't have your breasts get bigger. You can't have your waist get bigger. You cannot have your thighs get bigger, your hips get bigger. You've got to maintain yourself because you knew what you asked for. And in order for you to fit into that bespoke wedding dress, you have got to be in and of yourself a certain size. You've got to fit it. So you cannot ask for a bespoke wedding dress. Do you understand? Go to a tailor, pay that hefty price, put down that deposit, pay it over a couple of months because it's that expensive. You can't make a once-off payment because you're still that struggling girl. Yeah, you can't put in all that effort, all that time, and all that money, and then decide to go and splurge. No, what is this? Indulge in all the donuts of South Africa. Go on right ahead and indulge in all the pastries of the land, and upon indulging, then cry when a month 7th of October, 7th of September. Yeah, on the 7th of October, mourn like an injured dog, okay, like a little doggy dog. You go out here crying because you that spoiled brat girly girl. Now your dress doesn't fit. You picked it up from the tailor and it doesn't fit. You paid so much money for it. Oh, it doesn't fit. When then your dress doesn't fit, understand you're not going to get to wear it on your wedding day now, are you? Exactly. If at all, you are a certain woman when you ask for certain things from the Lord, and by the time the man rocks up, you don't fit. Girl, he's gonna pass you up. I'm sorry. Is that not funny? Is it pinching some people? But like, I'm laughing at enemies right now that are trying to break a sister heart, but I'm also very encouraging to people who are waiting on the Lord to not throw in the towel. If at all you order a bespoke wedding dress a year prior, you gotta stay in shape in order to fit into it on the day when it's time now for you to walk down the aisle. And similarly too, when you seek the Lord's face with bullet points, and the Lord then goes on right ahead and measures your breasts, measures your waist, measures your hips, measures your thighs, measures everything. Yeah, that's what's good. The Lord is going to be like, okay, today, Kurazi, my baby, These are your measurements. Amen. And so you're going to fit into this particular dress, and I'm going to make it for you. I'm going to go to the to the drawing board, and I am going to go and purchase the materials and what fish paste, etc. And then I'm going to start sewing. I'm going to start sewing for a whole year. I'm going to be making your gown, but baby girl, you better make sure you fit into this dress on a month before the wedding. You better make sure you fit into this dress on the 7th of October when you pick it up, because there's no room for alterations at this point. You better make sure you fit into it. So you've got a responsibility to make sure that in and of yourself you can fit into what God asked you. Into what you asked God to give you, what you asked the Lord for, what you have paid for. Because frankly, patience is a payment. It is hard work. It is a spending of your person. It takes a lot out of you. When you wait and wait and wait, it is a dry, parched experience that is so incredibly taxing, because the hope deferred, according to the scriptures, makes the heart sick. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Okay, guys? Yeah, so it hurts to wait. It really does, especially when everybody else on the left and on the right of you is walking in what they asked for, or is getting what they asked for. They're hopping into marriages, they're buying houses, they're having children, and you still out here waiting. It looks like you have got cobwebs all over the show, waiting around at a bus stop for something that's not coming. Waiting is rough. So it is indeed like a down payment, a deposit, following which you've got monthly installments to pay off something that you are ultimately going to acquire. And the final installment, by the time you arrive at it, at that stage, you can't even believe that you finished paying it off, because it was so taxing. It cost you so much money. You sacrificed so much. There are so many things that you could not get. You kept on walking right past stores where you saw a shoe you like, but you could not buy it because you're busy paying for your wedding dress. It hurts. You pass up that shoe, but when you make the final payment, the day has arrived. The day has arrived. But if, however, you made a decision to buy those shoes and miss out on payments, the tailor is not going to give you a dress if you have not finished paying for it. So your wedding date is going to pass with the dress still in his possession, and you still have to finish paying it off. If you don't finish paying it off, he's going to lay by it. Imagine that. He's going to lay by it. In other words, he's going to have to sell it to recoup his own costs, meaning that it's going to go somewhere else, to somebody else that frankly did not spend all that time praying and laboring and waiting. When you wait for a very long time for something, and before you get it, because you're giving up on God, and you decide to not, before you get it, you capitulate, you settle, because you're giving up on God. You don't believe that he's going to give you what it is that you asked him in prayer. You are like a person that pays a down payment on something for months on end, and just before you finish paying it off, you default, and then it gets repossessed. Imagine that. You have invested so much money in it, like a car repossession. I can't imagine what people who get their vehicles and homes repossessed must feel like, because they pay that mortgage, they pay that installment, but somewhere along the way they enter into hard times, and all that money that they paid, they don't get it back. The car just gets taken away, and now Shapaka 2 series you're walking, or you're having to move back into your mother's house with your house completely gone. And when you get your money back, when you're able now to suddenly afford it again, that particular house is gone, and you have to start from scratch again next time. That's what compromise does. That's what settling does. That's what throwing in the towel does. That's what giving up on God does. That's what thinking that the Lord cannot honor his promises, or looking around at your ecosystem, achieves. It makes you miss out on a car that you actually have already paid for. You were just left with 5 more installments, but like you ran into hard times and Nedbank took it and sold it, but you paid for 4.5 years, and before you could finish, COVID-19 hits and everybody loses their jobs. It's painful. And so your car gets repossessed. It's extremely painful. It's extremely painful. A person that settles eventually feels that they paid an installment on something that they did not ultimately acquire because they did not finish paying it off. One, when you go to ask for the bespoke wedding gown or the bespoke item of furniture, whatever it is, you make a petition to the furniture maker, the carpenter, or the dressmaker, whoever it is that is making the thing from scratch that you ask for with your specifications. It is the equivalent of a petition to God. It is the equivalent of prayer to God. And personally, at the age of 26 and a half, I got born again, and my biggest desire, even before redemption, was marriage and children, family. I wanted the whole 9. And so, of course, when I found out that God exists and he is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above anything I can ever think to ask for, I apologize for the speech lag. When I came to learn that it is possible that prayer works, that God is real, I was no longer doubtful, because now I knew, I validated, I confirmed my suspicions that I had all throughout my life that God was real. I confirmed them by getting born again. I found out that God was real. And when I found out that it was real, I learned that his word is the Bible. And in the Bible, I was being told these spectacular things that apparently when you ask for stuff in prayer, you get it. I was like, yo, yes, I get it. I've been underestimating prayer all my life because I have not believed all my life. But now I know it's real. So you can imagine how much I went to town. Yeah, like Doja Cat. I went to town with prayer. I became very specific with prayer. It did not help either that I was a project manager or unread project management, because out here in these streets, I thoroughly hooked up a scope document and sent it to God. I hooked up some business rules like a business analyst, and I sent them up to heaven on some, I want my particular future to look like this, please. It would be great if these were the dimensions, and in this particular corner is square, that one it must be round, and even round, it must not be fully round, but kind of like obtuse. Not obtuse, what is this? Like a crescent moon, and I want that corner to be sharp, but not the sharp of an acute angle, but rather the sharp of an obtuse angle, and it must in particular be this many degrees. Like, I went to town with details. Because I found this miracle thing in the sky called God that apparently can give us anything we ask for in prayer. I was out of my mind with gladness. So I took it. So I jotted it down on paper, following which I then converted it over to a computer. I wrote it down, I typed it, and then I printed it. I have lost it, however. I will let you know that it was something like 4 pages. 4 pages. Written ka fonte, what is this? It was Arial, I think, either 17 or 18 font. So it wasn't the smallest font. That's why it filled like 4 pages. And I typed it up and I banked it. And for me, that was what it is that I asked for in prayer. Before I even put it down, after jotting it down, the first few days of having written this down, I would read that list to God in prayer every single day. Following which I got exhausted with reading it, because it was long. It was like proper, and I would be chilling there for an hour and a half, my knees getting all shaky and wobbly and sore on the floor. So I then went on right ahead to basically say, God, you know my list. 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 Instead of reiterating it over and over and over again, petitioning, I jotted down on a list what I wanted. Some of the things that I wanted, I later on would come to, have I really gone back on anything? I have gone back to create leg room for it. For instance, I wanted a black man. And I wanted, if at all, a black man that was also either Tswana or Sotho. Basically, I didn't want a Zulu man. I did not want a Zulu man for sure. And I also did not want a Xhosa guy. Why didn't I want Zulu guys? Because I've always just believed violent. It's a stereotype in this country. And secondly, I didn't want Xhosa guys because they... Xhosa guys are the most shocking later on guys, in the sense that, man, do they love to come out of the closet. I was scared of ending up with a guy that's one day going to be batting for the other team. And in the black community, most of our gay men are Xhosa. Is that basic? Most of our gay men are Xhosa, and some of them don't look gay until until you discover that this guy is busy, man, with some other males out here in these streets. So I was like, I don't want a Xhosa guy because I don't want a suspect guy. I don't want a guy that's gonna come out of the closet when we are together, married for 5 years, and then next thing I learned that he's got other desires. I also do not want a Xhosa guy because they can be very arrogant. They can be extremely arrogant. Anyway, whatever. I also, like I said, I wanted a black guy, but as the years progressed, I changed my mind about wanting nothing but a black guy because I got abused by black men. I got persecuted and tormented and tortured by black men, and I was like, Lord, if at all you will enable me to fall in love head over heels violently and caused me to, the reason why I wanted a black guy was, one, that's all I've ever known. Secondly, I've always had fear of persecution, racist persecution. It's always been a big issue for me. Racist persecution, it was never so much about the guys, but it was about being scared of being mistreated by the world because of being with a white man or an Indian man or any other race. I did not want his family looking at him on some, you settled for a black girl. We're black, guys, and black people are the most mistreated and misunderestimated people. And I have already got I'm very sensitive, and I've already struggled all throughout my life with self. So if a man's family would look at me like I'm a substandard thing purely because of my race, whether or not that's true would be irrelevant. Bottom line is they would manage to chip away at my confidence, and I did not want to find myself in that position. So I kind of steered clear of non-black guys all my life because I did not want racist persecution. Whether or not my husband or boyfriend himself would treat me well was irrelevant. For me, I just knew that I would experience discrimination in one way or another just for being with a guy that's not black type thing. And it is already rough to impress a black man's family based on a myriad of things that you have to get right. How much harder would it be when now you're wrestling with just your skin tone? So that's why I wanted a black man, so I don't have to struggle with all of that. Plus they're all I've ever been with, and I did of course love them very, very much. But then after getting endured through a whole bunch of abuse by black men, I was like, yes, and at this rate, if at all the level of misogyny in the black community is typical and ubiquitous as I have experienced, if at all there is nothing that is a cut above the rest different, if at all there are no men that are deciding to do a different thing, if black men are not all allowing themselves to roam around in a cave where it is that they allow themselves to get schooled and socially conditioned to be a particular way towards women, if there are no men that are a cut above the rest with that, if there are no men that are prepared to break away from that mindset, if there are no black men that are prepared to ignore the grain of misogyny in the black community by our men because they try to get it approved by boys or whatever, then I have to realize that my husband can't possibly be black. I had an ex-boyfriend who started out alright with me and got trained by a man cave of other black men and given to basically be misogynistic. And instead of choosing his heart, his woman, he chose to mistreat his girl because his boys were giving him slack concerning his woman. You know, for me it was like, okay, so if the whole black community, if quite the chunk of the majority of black men are being trained, if at all they're not typical, if they get eventually trained to be typical because they want approval of other black men, and gizoba right, even if I meet one that's okay today, tomorrow he's gonna get flipped. Tomorrow is gonna get changed, like a whole zombie virus spreading through a community. If that does not exist, then how about I move to a community where that level of misogyny against women is not a thing, where it's not a taught, like it's not a class that every young boy must attend from an early age in order for them to basically end up just a particular way. You know, I can't be, I would have to be prepared to be with somebody that is in a cultural group or a racial group that does not have that as a problem, that does not have extreme lovelessness and a poignancy of misogyny in them as acceptable. A culture where this is not the norm but the exception, where men are rather trained a different thing, then I don't have to uproot anything nasty because he will naturally have come from a particular place. You know, how can I describe this? In Israel right now, there is a war because of what Hamas did, and in Gaza there were little boys from the age of like 7, 8 that were taken to summer camps to be trained exorbitant hatred against the Jews. Before they could learn anything, their innocence was ripped away from them. Young boys become young men that are so violent and so incredibly charged in anti-Semitism that they can easily just kill with no blood guilt a Jew. And so hence why that young man, as we have been watching on the news, could call his mother and father, there is a speech like here, I apologize, could call his mother and father after slaughtering Jews, 10 of them, and say, Mom, Dad, I've killed them with my own bare hands. I've killed them with my own bare hands. One woman and her husband, I killed her and she was pregnant. 10 of them did I kill. And he was priding himself, and the mother was crying on the phone like something beautiful was just happening. Like a son saying that he passed his university with a magna cum laude, and the mom like bursting out into tears because she's so proud of the son, but instead it was like massacre. The dad also on some, my son, I'm so proud of you, my son. I mean, like, whoa, you see that level of social conditioning where a child from young has no guilt over things that cause a lot of people sleepless nights. Yeah, it converts a lot of people into Lady Macbeth. Came to discover as the years progressed that there is something of that nature going on in the black community where relatively decent guys are made to turn. They are flipped because they're recruited, and then next thing they just go awry. They go awry on women. And if at all these young black men are like kids growing up in Gaza, like Palestinian kids growing up in Gaza, you could, as a Palestinian woman, really, if you want better, if you don't want a violent man that's out here massacring Jews for fun, you could hope to meet a guy in high school or meet a guy after getting out of high school that is not trying to join Hamas. You could hope for that. You could hope that you will meet somebody that is a little bit more straight thinking than all these other bloodthirsty, socially conditioned, charged beasts that will kill a Jew on contact. You could hope as a Palestinian girl hoping that you could meet a guy in your community that's not like that, and indeed they might exist. But if at all you really want to eradicate the risk altogether, it would be ideal to basically, I guess, hope and pray to the Lord to give you a husband that is outside of your tribe, your people. You need to basically break out of your village, break out of the Gaza Strip, find asylum in America, go and live somewhere else in the world, and then meet a husband there that does not have those strong inclinations, that does not have that propensity, that tendency, that is not encircled by a whole bunch of barbarians that are just like so destructive and could one day just recruit your boyfriend. They could one day recruit, like my boyfriend was recruited. Like he started out alright and then he flipped. So somewhere along the way, my desire for black men changed. Because I wanted nothing but a black husband, because it's all I knew, and I knew that I would never endure racist discrimination from the world around me if I was with a black guy. And then it changed. It became everything, including black guys. Anybody could come and marry me, and for me it became a lesser evil to endure racist discrimination by the world around my husband, who do not like that I'm black. It became a lesser evil than having to be with a husband that hates women, to be with a chauvinist, to be with a husband that will disregard me altogether, that will hate listening to what I have to say, to be with a man that is going to make my life the bane of my existence. Essentially, how can I explain it again using an example? With people, if you look at the story of Hannah and Penina, Hannah was very mocked by her sister wife Penina for not having a child. She could not bear kids. However, Hannah was the loved wife of their husband Elkanah. She was the favorite wife, much like Rachel of Jacob. Above Leah and every other wife, Rachel was the favorite one. With Hannah too, it was true that her husband Elkanah loved her more than Penina. And Penina gave Hannah so much grief that Hannah was always crying, mourning, because of the derision of her sister wife. And Elkanah used to comfort Hannah along the lines of, but am I not more than 10 children? Am I not good enough for you? So when your husband is there to comfort you, it lessens the blow when the world around you is persecuting you in light of your husband. When the world around you is mistreating you in light of your husband, it lessens the sorrow in your soul because your husband looks at you with favor, he adores you, and to him it's like, am I not more than 10 sons? And even though Hannah never really got comforted by Elkanah's comforting stead, can you imagine how much worse Hannah's pain would have been if Elkanah could not give two hoots about the fact that Hannah is hurt that she can't have babies? If Elkanah was indifferent, if he was treating her like, come on, like, grow up, you're such a big baby, stop crying, and like, stop being a crybaby, it is what it is. This is the lot that God has given us. Take it, man. I'm tired of wiping your tears. It would have just worsened Hannah's life. But it made it better. It made it more tolerable. Hannah did not miss the passion of Elkanah, and so she did not have even time to appreciate it. But when it's not there, you know that saying, you don't know what you had till it's gone. When the compassion is not there, that's when you grieve double. You have an nth degree of grief. Do you understand? So I realized once I saw the treachery in the black community and how they recruited my ex-boyfriend who started out really cool and then turned awry on me, I realized that if I were to date a white man, an Indian man, an Asian man, any other race but black, that even though his family hates me, and even though his friends don't like me, even if the world around us is always spitting on our feet when we go to restaurants, some waitresses pass us shade, even though I would find myself out there in the wild, really struggling racist mistreatment, especially being the black person in the party, if my husband is like, but honey, am I not more than 10 families? Am I not more than 10 approved friends? Am I not more than my boys, my friends, my sister who does not like you? Am I not more than her? Because I love you, I adore you. It just makes it better if he loves me, if he treats me well, if he regards me, and in his presence, if I feel safe, and if I don't anticipate an arrow of insults coming at me from him, but they're only coming from outside, he then on that day becomes a Seriti Saka. He becomes my shade. He becomes my shelter. Do you understand what I'm saying? My husband becomes the shock absorber of the world's hate of me as his black bride. It is the lesser evil. Upon being endured to as much incredible insanity by black men as I've been endured, I realized therefore that me holding on to just a black man, wanting that only in marriage, could subjugate me to the tyranny of being a Palestinian woman that falls in love in high school with a Palestinian boy that is otherwise normal and okay and thinks properly about the Jews and is not afflicting, is not abusive, is not with a radical mindset, that later on when he turns 21 gets flipped, and now I have to deal with this guy that is everything I did not ever want. But when I was in high school, he was cool. My boyfriend changed on me inside the relationship when I was already madly in love with him, and so it was really hard to break away when he started to become like this ravenous misogynist type thing. However, a Palestinian woman like completely eradicates the risk, that's what's good, of a radical jihadist husband if she doesn't want that, by getting out of that community and essentially allowing herself to be married over to an American, a Frenchman, an Australian, or whatever, because the risk is entirely eliminated for the grain of Islamist terrorism to ever be risen up in a man that originally did not have it. Yeah, that's what's good. So that's why I then opened up my heart to the prospect of being with a man other than a black man, and taking in my stride, should it come. Of course, I am praying against it. Taking in my stride as the lesser evil, if at all the ecosystem around him can't stand me because I'm black. Yeah, it's much better than being in a marriage with a man who has no regard for you versus being in a marriage with a man who has regard for you even though the world around him does not regard you. You have a shock absorber in your husband. Is that basic? So certain of my bullet points were eradicated. Certain of my bullet points that I sent up to heaven, I watered them down. I created a variability moving to the left or the right of this particular barometer to change, if at all that calls for it. And one of them was the race of my husband. I basically said to the Lord God, if it's not a black man, it's okay. If it's not a black man, it's okay. What else did I change? Most of the stuff has pretty much stayed the same. And this bullet point list that I wrote to God, and in each of the bullet points that I put down, I also created descriptions. That's why it was like 4 pages long. I would give details as to, like, you know, like for instance, one of the details was tall. I wanted a guy that was tall, and then I typed underneath the bullet point tall that, Lord, the reason why I want a tall guy is because I am from South Africa and I'm a black woman. And you know how short black men in South Africa are in comparison to the rest of Africa. I don't know what's up with that, because black men in Africa are tall. So if at all this man is going to be South African, that's also another thing that I wanted as well. I was pedantic about him being South African and being black. I changed my mind about the South Africanness. I changed my mind, and I will explain why. I changed my mind as well about the tall, not tall, sorry, the race of the guy being black. He did not have to be black. I wanted a South African man that was black because I wanted a man with whom I could relate with my cultural nuances. There are certain things that unless you're a black South African, you are not gonna get them. I don't know how men that, like black guys that move to, that move to the US, or to, not just guys but girls too, black men and women, the diaspora that move to the West, I don't know how they can just stay, like, continue to just 24 hours a day. They can do nothing but speak English. Like, if you've grown up in African culture as a black African, you will know that we don't speak English from beginning to the end. Like our sentences, we always add our languages in there. We mix, remix, like I just did Horano. We mix it. with our own dialect, and it comes so naturally to us that when we are in the offices chatting with black colleagues, you will speak in English, and then when you talk to your colleague, you'll be like, so Refilwe, what do you think we should do ka situation ena? Because because what's about the other day, and she said that we need to go and deal with that particular requirement in the RDS. We need to, you know, kind of like see if we can't take it out. Do you agree with the like, yeah, if at all you are English speaking, you understood that more or less, except for the parts where I was speaking in my language. Do you understand? But to a black person, it's like a coherent, consistent sentence that never stopped anywhere. They did not register in their minds the point where you started speaking Tswana and where you stopped speaking English. It's just a thing. It's like that. It's the way we talk. And it would be so hard for me to be in an environment where I would be standing or sitting in front of a black person in the West, like in America. I'm standing in front of a black person, so they look like me, but I can't talk to them like that. Our brains have been wired such that in the presence of Indian people, colored people, white people, we can stick to English from the beginning to the end. But with black people, we automatically keep switching between English and Tswana because we understand each other. There was a girl at MTN that was colored, but she looked black. In South Africa, there is a difference between colored and black. Colored is a mix of black and white. So colored people tend to look mixed. Like, they are fair, very fair in complexion. They've got a lot more straighter hair, like softer hair than ours. And sometimes they have a colored accent, but you tend to know that that person is a colored person versus not, based on how it is that they look. So again, similarly, a black person looks a particular way, in a way that is easy to gauge. I've had two friends that looked colored, like Pearl Tusi, that when I met them, I did nothing but speak English until they like slapped me with Tswana, and I was like, whoa, okay, what's good? Hula, okay, sharp, girl, yeah, type thing. But similarly too, I have known I've known one colored girl, right, that looked black, and I slapped her with my languages, and she was like, I can't understand what you're saying, but I get where you're coming from because of the way that I look, but I don't know like your languages. I speak nothing but English only, right? So I don't know how black people from Africa can move to the US and see people who look exactly like them and not just experience just a severity of cognitive dissonance, struggle, like be maintained, like continuously just speak English with a person that looks exactly like you. It's gotta be rough. Like, it's gotta take a lot of adjustment, and the nuances as well of our culture as South Africans, and maybe wherever else it is that you might find yourself in the world. Every culture in the world has got its own nuances. Do you understand? There are certain jokes that certain cultures only get. There are certain ways of talking. There are certain slang terms that we use that we understand. Like in our culture, Cherry is a woman, right? Itigen is a woman, and you can speak like that about a Tigan chicken, and everybody will know that you're speaking about a girl. But you can't just go and call a woman a cherry in the US, because they will think of cherry the fruit type establishment thing. So there are just certain nuances that black guys get, that I grew up amidst, that I dated, that I really liked. Their what is this, ghetto talk, their black dialect, in so far as it is mixed or mixed with our nuances. I wanted that. I wanted a man that I could, one, speak my languages to, mix it up with English or whatever, and he will get it. And I also wanted a man that also understood our nuances, the jokes that we get, the cultural comparabilities. I wanted that. I wanted a black dude from South Africa. I wanted a black South African man, especially if he was from the Kasi, from Soweto or whatever. I wanted that because I liked that aspect of my culture, and I did not want to be eroded away at. Plus, I didn't want to have to keep speaking English all the time in a relationship. I did not want to have to type thing. But that changed, right? I changed my desire for nothing but a South African, but for a black man, for the reasons I've just highlighted above. I changed my desires for a South African man in particular. Again, the same thing that turned me off black men is the same thing that turned me off South Africa. I got violated by my country. I got so badly treated by my countrymen, especially black people, especially my own people. They became such a turn off to me that I now was prepared to, I guess, live in another country and speak English 24 hours a day to everybody there, including black people, because it was a lesser evil for me to not have for me to miss out on the cultural nuances of that I understood best, that I can relate with best because I grew up in this ecosystem. It was a lesser evil for me to take that in my stride, the loss of that, than to have to be with somebody that has the nuances that speaks the way that Wannabe is able to understand our dialect and even some of the slang words that are only unique to us. But he's rude and he's disrespectful and he's mistreating me. Like, I have been so badly abused by South Africans, especially black South Africans, that I now am like, I'll take a Spaniard any day. That the two of us are going to have to navigate our way around each other's natural dialects. Insofar as we, however, both speak English, I'll take it. And then I'll teach him a little bit of Tswana and Zulu here. And he'll teach me a little bit of Spanish there, but the middle ground will be English. And again, it creates greater cultural diversity for the children who will have both, Spanish, English, Zulu and Tswana. They will be they will be multilingual in a way that the parents weren't. If at all, as parents, we make a decision to teach our children our home languages, respectively. So for me, it was South Africa has just so violent. It's so treated like this country has thrown me on a wall and beaten me black and blue. Like it's love on the brain. It has beaten me. Like the level of indiscretion, the level of injustice in this country, the corruption, the fact that South Africa has not cared that I am one of them, the injustice. It's like just the injustice. Like, how do you just shatter a person's career, your own Genji, out of nothing but jealousy, the adoration for witchcraft? My country has so badly abused me that I'm scared of every South African. I've been betrayed by almost every South African I have decided to trust in this entire 10-year season. A whole decade now. Is it? Yeah, a decade. I've been suffering for a decade, and for a decade I have given chances to I don't know how many South Africans, and every last one of them, just like a typical domino, has fallen on me. And so it has made me ubiquitously just kind of plaster all of them with the same character flaws. Whether or not it is accurate, it is likely true that there are some South Africans that are trustworthy, but the ones that I have ran to for help in this past decade have all initially started out alright, and then they just kind of dished me to die, grow mold and fungi, and just wither away into oblivion. South Africa has also watched me get abused by a man from the US and done nothing. They have not been patriotic enough to at least cover me from an entitled American. And that for me was like, hi Bani, on your own homeland, you can allow that much disrespect from someone that's not even from here. My goodness, it is no wonder you are falling apart as a country. You can't even stand for me when America is disrespecting me. Like, the US is basically underestimating South Africa's ability to stand patriotically for its own people. So I've been so badly mistreated by South Africa that I changed my mind about insisting that my man be South African and black for reasons I've highlighted. I've changed my mind, like black for reasons I've highlighted, and South African for also reasons that I have highlighted. The tall one, I took it to God and I typed all these things saying that South African men, you know how short they are, but please can my particular South African man be tall? My South African black man, can he be tall? Can I have a guy that hovers around, towers above me? Because I'm a tall woman. I am 1.75 meters tall, and all throughout my life I've really struggled with boyfriends. I've had massive crushes on guys that were much too short for me, and unfortunately for them, their shortness, they did not make it up for it in other ways. It did indeed make them insecure in my presence, and so treat me like I was a giant above them, and I did not like that. I did not like that men around me imagined me too big to be a woman. I'm not big boned, I'm tall, I'm skinny and tall, and that for me, it makes me look like a model. And there are models across the world that get manly men walking around with them all over the show and treating them like women, understanding that they're queens, they're dainty little girls, they are still soft girls even though they're taller. Do you understand what I'm saying? And for me, it was just like, can't I just find a guy that is so tall that it won't be a thing to him that I'm taller than him? And so him, with all of his insecurities about being short, essentially mistreat me passively, aggressively, second guess me or downplay what I'm trying to do, or downplay what I'm trying to say, right? So that became then a thing to me that I took to the Lord. So all of that explanation, I basically was creating a business case for myself. I didn't have to, God knows me very particularly, but I was trying to help him understand why this is what is this? A deal, well, not a deal breaker, but non-negotiable. I was trying to help the Lord basically understand, not that he needed that I really would like to have a man that's taller than me for these reasons. And on top of that, I also want to know what it's like to be lifted. You know what I mean? I could never be the kind of bride whose husband takes a photo of her on the wedding day. I'm carrying her, you know, because I'm so tall. All my boyfriends have been literally more like exactly my height or shorter than me, such that I would look silly if the man like lifted me. I was like, I want a man to also lift me up the stairs. I want a man to lift me on the wedding day and us take a photo like that. And short girls are the ones that get that done for them. I'm not a heavy woman, so I'm liftable. Plus, there are heavy women out there in this world that get lifted by men because men are just bigger than them. So I just wanted a bigger guy. I wanted a guy that was bigger and thicker than me, that would also not look younger than me when I'm pregnant. So I would like basically create a substantial business case to the Lord on some. This is why he has to be tall. If at all I get fat, I'm also gonna look like his mama. He's gonna look like my son. So if I have a big man, he will look like my husband, and even when I am pregnant, he will still be bigger than me in his girth as a man. So please, can I have a big man? That's what more or less my list was looking like. Not just in terms of height, but there were quite a few things, a lot of stuff that I asked the Lord for in that prayer, in that bullet pointed like pad, like basically tiny little mini book that I had written to the Lord with expanded on bullet points. I had taken it up to him because I understood that it was possible to ask things in prayer and literally be given them to you, never mind just enough, but pressed down, shaken together, and running over, exceedingly and abundantly above it shall you get. So for me, it was like, if I write a really lofty list, according to the scriptures, I'm going to get even better than that loft. I'm going to get better than that lofty list. So really and truly, why not capitalize on it? Let's move to the next part so we can continue to tell this, because I'm ultimately going to get to a point where I am highlighting the absurdity of people's persistence on me settling because of how it is that I have always seen things ever since coming to Christ, and the travesty that I gauge would likely be the status quo if I did settle, and how sorrowful I would be if I did, because I would never forget the amount of effort that I invested to pray. I put in effort to even pray. And I mean, having done all that hard work, it's literally like paying a vehicle installment, and then 5 months before you pay it off, it gets repossessed because you stop paying your dues. You stop paying the installment. What a waste. What a waste. All I can think about is the fact that I've been waiting for 12 years. Next part.